I'm here with Sheroy. Another big win for Arsenal. This time West Ham 2, Arsenal 5. I think that's 13 goals now in 3 games since the international break. Another outstanding performance. What do you put this down to?
Is it too simplistic to say Martin Odegaard? Is it too simplistic? There's an element of me that feels as though Arsenal knew that it was going to be a really, really uphill battle to make up a 9-point gap with Liverpool, and the international break maybe was used to mentally reset and say it shouldn't really be last chance saloon territory in November, but we're playing like a team that knows what's on the line. We're playing like a team that knows that any drop points now, and if what I think is going to happen at Anfield tomorrow happens, you could be.
What do you think is going to happen?
I think Liverpool are going to smoke Manchester City tomorrow. I really do. I think Manchester City are a team that is understandable given how good they've been over the years, but they're a team that's on the ropes, and Liverpool's a team in the ascendancy. But it looked as though today, and it looked as though against Sporting, and it looked as though against Forest, we're a team that knows what's on the line, and we're trying to leave it all out there. It's somewhat bittersweet for me because I would love to be able to look at these results and go, oh, okay, that puts us 1 point behind Liverpool or 1 point ahead of Liverpool, and feel like we're in a race right now. But we're not. But what we are doing right now is ensuring that the title isn't yet a foregone conclusion by any means.
Are you getting a similar vibe to last year? If you recall last year, I think it was in January, we had a winter break. And prior to that break, we'd had, I think, 3 back-to-back defeats. We'd gone out the FA Cup and we'd lost games in quick succession to West Ham and Fulham, I think it was. Went on the break, came back, went on an 18-game run where we just looked utterly brilliant. Do you think this is about to happen again?
I damn well hope so. Look, I mean...
Are you catching those vibes, though?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said that I'm not. I think a lot of it is contingent upon key players remaining fit, in all honesty. I mean, I think we can attribute certain performances and results in the earlier part of the season to some key injuries, and injuries to the entire back line at certain times, right? So it is about keeping players fit, but notwithstanding that, I just think that the team does look as though we're playing with that much more belief and that much more conviction going forward now. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. The players don't just look better with Martin Odegaard. I do think there is an element of they look better because of Martin Odegaard, right? What we can't overlook is the fact that when he's on the ball, he deliberately takes enough touches and puts himself under enough pressure for him to occupy 2 or 3 players. And that inevitably gives Saka a bit more space when otherwise he would have been doubled or tripled up on. That gives players like Trossard a bit more space. That gives everyone around a bit more time on the ball, right? And that showed today. That showed today because you look at some of the spaces that Trossard was allowed to occupy. He looked better today than he has looked for large parts of this season. And I can attribute a lot of that to the work that Martin Odegaard was doing to occupy West Ham's defence.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about Trossard. I thought he had a really good game today. I mean, a lot of us were talking about that axis on the right-hand side, Timber, Odegaard, Saka. But on the left-hand side, we were a threat today, and Trossard was a big part of that, yeah? I thought he looked really good.
Yeah, look, people have criticised him for not impacting games when he starts them in the same way that he does when he appears off the bench. But today I thought he impacted the game from the outset. I mean, a wonderful, wonderful assist for that Havertz goal. That's a ball that I don't think too many players in our team could have made, in all honesty. And again, it was right place, right time for a back post tap in after some brilliant work from Saka as well. So all in all, look, 5 goals in a half in the Premier League Saturday night. All eyes are on you when you know that the 2 teams that are closest to you are playing tomorrow. That's a nice day's work, Laurie.
Absolutely. Was you a little bit disappointed that we didn't kick on and get more goals in the second half, or is that being a bit greedy?
I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but I'm also not going to suggest that we couldn't have done a bit better in the second half. And I'm not saying that we were unadventurous in the second half by any means, because we created so many opportunities where if we had used the time and the space better and made some better decisions, I feel as though that could have been a 7 or an 8. When you have that much space and you're bringing on players like Jesus and Sterling, who ought to be threatening in transition, I felt as though they could have done a bit more with the opportunities that they had. And this is where Arteta's going to find himself in a bit of a predicament now, because a lot of people criticise him for not necessarily trusting his squad throughout the course of a season. But when you've scored 5 and you're bringing on Raheem Sterling and he gets those opportunities in transition and he doesn't really look as potent as he ought to, what's the manager going to do? He's not going to give Raheem Sterling that many more chances, as an example, right? Now, Gabriel Jesus, I know people aren't really criticising his performance against Forest and saying that, look, we look good as an attacking unit, so he must have been a part of that. But he is not really scoring goals, and he doesn't look like he believes he's going to score either. So we don't have too many options up front, which is why it goes back to my point earlier. Not only do we need to keep performing this way, but we do need to keep players fit, because the only substitute today in the second half that I thought gave a really, really good account of himself and clearly understood the assignment was Zinchenko. And given that Calafiori came off, I'm not entirely sure why, Zinchenko might be needed against Manchester United in a matter of days.
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, Calafiori came off, looked like he was touching his groin. He said something to the manager. Gabriel, who was outstanding today as well, scored that great goal with his head for the first goal. He had a collision. Well, I say collision, it looked like the keeper took him out to me, but anyway. But it resulted in him getting clattered and then going to the floor. There's some speculation that he might have had some concussion. We hope not, because if he is declared as a concussion injury, then he won't be able to play against Man United. But he seemed to be all right at the end of the game, yeah?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, if it was a concussion, I'd be very surprised if he hadn't been taken off immediately after the incident, because they do check that stuff instantly. Like, I know that you can suddenly start showing signs of a concussion upon further examination, but in all honesty, I think it was a case of Gabriel may have been a bit touch and go coming into this game. We weren't entirely sure whether he'd even travelled. He scored 5 in the first half. Why take the risk?
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And let's hope that he's in the team for what is bound to be a massive game at the Emirates on Wednesday against Man United, a long-time rival. How do you see that going?
We have to keep the pressure up. I mean, one thing that I've always felt about this Liverpool team this season anyway is they're a team that looks like they're playing without the weight of the world on their shoulders in many ways. And I do think there's an element of no one really expected them to be doing what they're doing under Arne Slot. Very often when you get a new manager, you are offered, I wouldn't call it a free hit, but you're offered an element of a transitional season. The last thing you want to do is give them a free run at it. So, because then that alleviates all pressure. The only way in which they're going to start dropping points, in my opinion, is either if there's an injury pile up at their end or if they do start feeling the pressure. And the only way we do that is by continuing to win. Manchester United are a team that I think are currently knocking about in 12th or 13th. Played 4, won 4, drawn 4, lost 4. So played 12, sorry. Won 4, drawn 4, lost 4. It's a mixed bag in terms of results and performances, but they have a new manager too. And they're coming to our ground. And we scored 3 against Forest. We scored 5 against Sporting. We scored 5 today. Odegaard is back. We do need to win to keep our title, or any hope of there being a title challenge alive, right? So in all honesty, I'm going to say about Manchester United at the Emirates what I said about West Ham over here. It shouldn't just be a result. It should be a result and a performance that makes people turn their heads the same way that we did midweek, the same way that we did today, and go, they're a force. They're a force, and they're not done yet. And I think even though that we've done this against Forest and Lisbon and West Ham, people might still say, oh yeah, but it's only 3 games. Well, 3 could become 4. And then 4 could become 5. I want to see Manchester United hold smoke. And in all honesty, given the calibre of football we're playing and the manner of goals that they concede, I'm hoping that it's maybe not a 5-goal first half. It may not be that similar. But I do think it should be a dominating performance from start to finish.
Yep, definitely. Can't let you go without asking you about Bukayo Saka, man of the match today. I thought he was outstanding throughout. Your thoughts on Bukayo Saka?
I'm running out of things to say about the guy now, man, because it's not very often that you come across a footballer that you like as a personality, but he still can show that he's got an element of strength and a nasty side to his game on the pitch, whilst also having that level of quality. There were certain things that he did today, one of which he got booked for, by the way, which I thought was nonsense. He shouldn't have been booked for this, but his teammate is getting roughed up by an opposition team member. He just goes up and shoves him and says, listen, not with my team, not today. You know, that's a lot of people said Bukayo Saka's the guy that everyone likes and he's the nice guy. Well, actually, no, he puts himself about. And he's also one of those guys, there's this myth, right, that in order to be a hold-up player when you're up front, that you need to be 6'4" and 300 pounds. But he puts his strength about. He puts his strength about, and he can win those duels when it comes to the long balls too. I mean, I needn't talk about his finishing because we all know he has that in his locker. His link up with Odegaard is magnificent. There are many, if any, teams in the world right now that he probably doesn't walk into, you know, and that's why he's one of those players. There are quite a few players, in all honesty. I want us to get over the line when it comes to the majors, Laurie, because notwithstanding the concerns about whether these players may leave if we don't, he is one of those players that I feel deserves to do it and deserves to do it in an Arsenal shirt. Because of the way he's been carrying this team on his back for so long. Today, I don't know if I'm being overly critical here, and I understand why he did it, but I would have liked to have seen him take both penalties, in all honesty. If you're our penalty taker, and people are saying to get Salah numbers, or to be put in that world-class conversation, you need to get the Salah numbers, maybe you need to be a bit more selfish, you know?
Yeah, that's the point. I mean, a lot of people look at it as a sign of respect. and a sign of the relationship he has with the captain. I mean, I'm not sure whether Odegaard put his hand up for it or whether Saka decided, oh, do you want to take it? But it worked out well. I mean, Odegaard scored the goal. He won the game 5-2 and everyone's smiling, yeah?
Yeah, look, this is me nitpicking, man. We scored 5 in the first half and I'm sitting here nitpicking about who's taking a penalty. I mean, come on, look, it's, as I said, it's bittersweet because we look good again, man. We look good again. And I can't help but look back at some of the results that we've accumulated and think, what if? But I like the fact that we're not going away and we don't look like we're going away just yet. You know, let's keep this going. And the longer we sustain this, maybe the closer we get. And who knows, maybe April and May could be a bit more nervy for Liverpool than people think it could be right now.